Alright, well I figured since I'm already making some videos anyways, I might as well just do another one. So this time I want to cover what my daily carry is and kind of my reasonings and for why I chose this one in particular over the huge myriad of other little carry guns that are out there that are super popular on the market right now, and kind of go over that. So what I carry usually on a daily basis is this: a Walther PPS M2 and 9mm. It's a little gun, little polymer gun, and I absolutely love it. Um, Walther doesn't usually make bad products, usually, although sometimes they have a lemon, the CCP M2, which is far inferior to this excellent piece here. That's a story for a different day. I need to follow up on that, but this is what I carry. And there's a lot of reasoning and thought that went into that when I was choosing what I wanted to replace my first two carry guns that I had. The very first carry gun that I had was a P320 from SIG, and it was one of the early versions. And I had a nice inner waistband holster and like a mag pouch and all that. I had all the nice gear and all that shit all set up. But when I started carrying it, I realized that it just felt fat, like it was wide. And that didn't really vibe with me very well. Maybe I didn't have a right holster. I was kind of new to the whole carrying thing. I didn't like it very much. I ended up really not carrying it at all, which kind of defeats the purpose of a carry gun if you don't carry it, right? So I did away with that, and I said, okay, well, I need something slimmer. So and something I felt a little bit more safe with personally, because as you know, a P320 for the most part, most of them do not have any kind of external safety. It's literally it's just the trigger, and the P320s don't even have trigger safeties, like blade safeties in it. It's just the trigger. So I was kind of nervous about carrying that because I'm very used to having pistols with a manual safety or a double action trigger. So I wanted something more along those lines, so I switched over to a very cheap, inexpensive SCCY pistol, CPX-2. Never heard of these guys before. I had no idea who they were, where they came from, the history of them. I had absolutely no idea that the majority of the internet pretty much hates them. At least from what I've seen, right? But I had no idea what they were, so I just up and got one. Liked how it felt in my hand. The trigger was acceptable. It wasn't great, but it was acceptable. Nice, long, heavy double action trigger pull. There was no way that thing was going to go off. It worked for me, and it was a lot thinner than the 320 was, and it still carried like 10 rounds. So I was like, man, that works for me. I carried that for a little while, but even then, that got a little old to carry, because honestly those things aren't very fun to shoot. I can get maybe through a box of 50 rounds before my trigger finger starts getting tired, and they weren't especially accurate, and I kind of wanted night sights on there, or some form of night sight, not just a regular 3-dot setup. And if you're a gunsmith or have any experience working on those pistols, you realize just how cheap those things are, and the sights were not really meant to be replaced by anything else. So when you do replace the sights, take them off, put them back on, it's kind of a one and done kind of deal. So that kind of sucks. So I just ended up not practicing a whole lot with it, and I don't really believe in people when they carry a gun but don't practice with it. I don't subscribe to that philosophy myself. If you're going to be carrying a gun, you should be practice with it regularly, at least once a month, but preferably more. So that eventually started getting shelved more and more, and I ended up not carrying it as much. So I thought, okay, I need something better. So I started looking at basically my criteria was I was looking for the mag capacity had to be at least a 6+1. I needed the overall gun to be slimmer than an inch, or at or below an inch as far as thickness goes. No 40 cal, no 45. I wanted 9mm. Length didn't really matter. Height didn't really matter. It was the thickness, the width that really made it uncomfortable for me to carry. So I had three big options. I had this one, the Walther Walther PPS M2, the Smith & Wesson Shield, and the Glock 43. I think this is the 9mm one. Glock 43. But Glock 43 had pretty miserable mag capacity. I think it was like a 6+1 naturally. I don't like Glocks very much. I still don't to this day. So that one was almost immediately a write-off because I wasn't a fan. And it was also the most expensive out of the three to boot. So it's like, I'm not really feeling the Glock 43, so that's gone up the window. So I wanted to pick up a Smith & Wesson Shield and see what all the hype was about that, because people absolutely lose their minds over these things. Like, oh my God, Smith & Wesson Shield, fucking great carry gun. Oh my gosh, the sales numbers are off the charts. The 2.0 is the best carry gun ever made, right? People just losing their minds. So I needed to see if the hype was real. So I went to a store and I handled the 1.0 and the 2.0, and 2.0 is far superior to the 1.0, straight up. Like, there's no comparison there. But the polymer that Smith & Wesson uses for the pistols feels very, very cheap, and not in a good way. Like, it doesn't quite feel right to me. So I was like, I did like the trigger. I did like the trigger. Stock trigger on a 2.0, great. So it was down to that, and it fit all my criteria I had at the time. And there was a lot of aftermarket options, which is cool. I like that. Not necessary for the gun though, right? If it's good on its own, I don't need to do any kind of factory, any kind of modifications from the factory. That's cool with me too. Then I tried the PPS M2 and I was like, holy crap, this thing, like, picked it up. It felt freaking awesome in hand because, as you know, Walther pistols are extremely ergonomic. They just fit your hand really, really well. They feel great. And personally, to me, the PPS looks much better than the Shield. The Shield looks kind of dorky, honestly. It's a very practical pistol, but it doesn't quite look that great. And the trigger on this PPS here was pretty much on par for me, anyways, with the Shield 2.0. So I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And I also have a thing for German guns. And seeing that this was actually made in Germany because it has all the proof house markings and the serial numbers and all that stuff, that's super cool to me. So, and then I also found out that Walther did a PPS M2 LE package, which included like a phosphorus kind of glow-in-the-dark sight setup for these, with big old freaking yellowish looking dots that glow in the dark when you light them up. And they included a 6, 7, and 8 round magazine for this thing, which is pretty cool, because when I started looking at the prices for mags for this gun, I was like, oh Jesus, that's going to be really expensive. They range anywhere from like what, 35 to 45 bucks for like one of these like 7 or freaking 8 rounders. So I was like, Jesus, man, that's a huge part of the expense, is just getting the mags for the gun. So and I've never really had a whole lot of faith in Smith & Wesson magazines. They just feel very cheap to me. So, everything about the Smith Shield is, I know it would probably work and get the job done, but it just felt very cheap to me. It didn't look very good, and I've never really been a Smith fan to begin with, at all. To this day, I still do not own a Smith & Wesson anything. So that should tell you something. And I have like a bazillion Walthers. So I ended up going with the Walther because for the price that I got this for, the LE model, it's like sub 300 bucks that I got online. Got it in, and man, I've been actually loving this pistol ever since. It's really, really super freaking thin. I can carry up to 8+1 if I want to, although I normally carry with a 7+1 and have the 8 round spare mag, so that way my round count is consistent across my my reloads there. And I end up picking it up, and I have about probably 700 rounds or so through this now, and it has worked great. I love shooting this thing. It doesn't beat my hand up too bad. The trigger pull is not super heavy. It's also not super light either. The sight picture works for me. There wasn't any space in between for the stock factory sights, but there's a little bit of a story with that too. So the stock phosphoric sights are not true night sights in the sense they do not glow on their own. They need a light source to charge them up first, which was never really a big deal for me, because as I noticed when I was carrying this, if I had this anywhere in my person during the day, it lit up. It was enough to light up the sights on the back, and then when I got to nighttime, it was enough to last me pretty much the whole night. And these things were like freaking bright. They were extremely bright. But unfortunately, the sights, the way they're constructed is they're steel, but the actual like phosphoric paint itself is put on there quite cheaply. It's not like a glue or anything. It's literally just like a freaking paint they just dab on there. And after carrying this for so long in the Arizona heat and also the cold, leaving it in my truck, taking it in and out of my truck, carrying it on my person, you know, all the usual wear and tear that goes with a carry gun. One time I was shooting with this and the front sight paint just goes, pew, just flies off, never to be seen again. So now I have, I had 2 dots and a black blade in the front. I was like, well, that kind of sucks. So eventually I decided, you know what, I've always needed to get real night sights for this thing anyways. So I went and bought some Trijicon HD night sights for this, and it has worked just fine ever since. Yeah. So one thing I just really like about this gun is that a common trend with carry guns like this is that the smaller you get, the more unpleasant it is to shoot for long periods of time, which kind of discourages people from shooting it at the range and practicing, which is what happened with me with the Sky Pistol. I hated shooting that thing at the range. It freaking sucked. But this one doesn't do that anywhere near as much. It just doesn't beat your hand up. It's still a little snappy because it's a tiny little 9mm. It's going to be snappy, especially with your high-powered defensive loads. But you know, I can go through 150, 200 rounds with this in one sitting and not regret it for the rest of the day. So that's what I really like about this. Now, I'm not going to load one up, but I'll just show you the little bit of the size differences here. So, as is the case with a lot of carry guns, they oftentimes include extended mags that you can put in them to give you a little extra capacity for in a trade-off for concealability, right? So this is an 8-rounder, and it sticks out quite a bit, as you can see there. But honestly, it gives you like a full-size pistol feeling kind of grip. It's pretty nice. This is usually the one that I shoot it with at the range too. And then I'll just have the 7-rounder in there. And this is what I usually carry it with, because this is a nice compromise between size, shootability, concealability, you know, and round count. The one magazine size I absolutely detest in this gun, though, is the flush fit 6-rounder that just fits right here. I hate it because my pinky is floating out in no man's land, which I absolutely detest with carry guns. I cannot stand that when my pinky is floating off in the middle of nowhere. Does it actually affect practical accuracy? Not really, but man, it just bothers me something fierce, so I don't do that. Also, my 6-round mag had this weird thing where it would lock open early. I put 6 rounds in, and then when it starts to load the, when I've shot 5 shots and it wants to load the 6th one, it'll lock back early for some reason, and then I had to pull it back, let it go for it to chamber the 6th round, which that is kind of unacceptable for a carry gun, so I kind of got rid of that mag. Haven't had the problem since with anything else though, so probably just a dud. But what else? So shooting accuracy wise, I don't really take the time to group a carry gun hardly at all. I don't really see a point in that when my entire point of this gun is to have practical combat accuracy, and that means being able to place shots within center mass of a human-sized target at the appropriate distance that you wish to engage your targets at, which for me is 25 yards and under for a human-sized target with a pistol this size. So, does it achieve that combat accuracy standard for me? Absolutely. No problem. Super easy. I think probably the best accuracy, I usually train with this at 15 to 20 yards, and I'll get right around the same ragged kind of like maybe fist size hole at 15 and 20 yards. So this thing, it's perfectly accurate, you know, for its intended purpose. It's probably more accurate than I am, but it's very, very hard to shoot very small pistols like this extremely accurately. The smaller they get, the harder it is to do. So I have been quite happy and satisfied with the accuracy potential of this gun. It does what I need it to do at the distances that I need to do it at, which is all you can really ask for, right? Other weaknesses though of this gun is there is almost no aftermarket accessories for this thing. Unfortunately, I have never seen any kind of trigger mods for these, no like magazine release mods, no control mods, no barrels or anything. I haven't seen really like any parts for this thing except for sights. So if you're one of those people that really likes to trick out your carry gun, it's probably not for you because there just isn't an aftermarket for this thing, which that's unfortunate, but you know, I don't lose sleep over it at night. Because honestly, like I said earlier, this gun is perfectly capable out of the box factory for me, so I don't feel a need to change anything on it. So that's my perspective. But yeah, so yeah, this is that's kind of some of the reasons why I kind of chose this over pretty much every other concealed carry pistol that's out there. You know, the concealed carry SFPF 9 market, striker fired polymer frame 9mm carry market is super hot right now. Although a disclaimer, I got this pistol way before the SIG 365 ever came out, so that was not an option for me at the time. And those who have been keeping up, I'm sure you're aware of all the teething issues that the 365 had when it first came out, and honestly it kind of killed my confidence in that gun until they actually ironed out their whole process and stopped using their customers as a beta test. Just my personal opinion. But honorable mention though, if I was going to get another concealed carry pistol today, I would be hard pressed to choose anything other than the 365 XL. After having shot it, handled it, you know, for a little while. It's not my gun, it's a buddy's gun, but man, what a cool little gun. Seriously though, like it carries freaking like what, 12 or 15 rounds and roughly the same size as this, maybe a little bit longer. You know, that's crazy, dude. That's crazy. And it doesn't weigh anything either, which is pretty cool. And it is eminently shootable. You know, it just shoots. So honorable mention to the 365 XL, but for right now, I've already bought this. I carry it pretty much all the time. It does what I need it to do. It's got reasonable mag capacity. Still puts holes in things when I need it to. So yeah, can't really complain. And the price was just right, honestly. You know, when I got this, it was sub $300. Can't really complain about that. You know, you don't necessarily need to go out there and spend $800-900 on a freaking super primo carry 1911 or whatever the hell custom job you want to get or something. You know, to me, I don't need all that stuff. So yeah, that's my little review here on the Walther PPS M2. Pretty cool little gun, and definitely underrated, I think, when it comes to the concealed carry market. I really don't see a lot of people talking about these or carrying these, and I think it's kind of a sleeper. You know, these things are really good pistols. I've had nothing but good luck with them, and definitely recommend for people looking for something that isn't the usual just carry a Glock kind of mentality, or just carry a 365 now, as the trend happens to be. I still feel like this gun is actually more comfortable to carry and shoot and hold than a 365 because Walther has superior ergonomics, in my personal opinion. Anyway, so yeah, just thought I'd do a quick review on one of my personal carry choices, and yeah, so hopefully that was informative and you guys enjoyed that. So if you're looking to get one of these, I'd highly recommend picking up the LE model purely for the extra magazines that it comes with, because damn, does Walther charge a lot for their mags. Like that's how they get you, through the freaking magazines. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that, and we'll catch you next time.